and we'll get started in probably about 3 minutes. We just want to give everyone a couple minutes to join. We have everyone on mute. We always say stay cute, stay on mute, because we really want to be able to, like, one, we'll have this discussion, but please drop any questions you have or anything you'd like to know in the chat. And we're going to do our best to answer questions. And if you have any questions that aren't answered by the end of this event, feel free to always message navigator@kindbody.com. We're always, we have people on that all the time, our wonderful CX team, and they forward us the messages if you have any questions. Hey, Minneapolis, we're coming for you very, very soon. Our team is on their way setting up our clinic. We're super excited. And yes, but welcome everyone. I am so happy to be able to do this event with Dr. Kane, who is in Atlanta, working at our clinic there. And we were just at ASRM, which is the Association of Reproductive Medicine in Baltimore. So for so long, we've been on Zooms, and it was nice to see our wonderful colleagues in person and be able to know that we all are doing this magic to provide Kindbody and just change the way the landscape of healthcare and fertility care is done. So I am so blessed to have amazing colleagues and finally see them in person, which has been almost 2 years. We've all been kind of on lockdown, but it's great to be here. So we'll just wait maybe 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. Craig, do you want to go to the next slide, and I'll just introduce our panel while we're waiting. One who I just spoke about, Dr. Kristen Kane, is a wonderful reproductive endocrinologist, part of our team at Kindbody. She is currently in Atlanta, and she'll tell you more about our future schemes and plans and where she's going with Kindbody. Our joke is that she told our CEO, Gina, where she wanted a clinic, and it's all happening now. My name is Tracy Reynolds. I'm the Senior Director of Holistic Health, and we're going to talk more about all of the amazing services that I've worked to build to bring to Kindbody, and really care that goes beyond the treatment plan, and really, I believe, improving outcomes, improving the mind-body connection, and doing really great things in space. And to that point, I have 2 wonderful panelists that are going to be here. They're part of our holistic health provider team. Krista, who's a brand new mommy. She was just holding her delicious baby. I don't know if we still have our baby, but Krista is our nutritionist. You want to say hi, Krista? Yeah, I probably made her mute.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm so happy to be here and be part of this event. And I'm glad to see all the faces here, and bring on your nutrition questions because we can answer them all. I hope that you will enjoy your journey with Kindbody.
Wonderful. And Nicole is our structural yoga therapist. So we're going to talk about something that is not new. We know that yoga has been around for a pretty long time, but really about the idea of somatic movement therapy, and really, again, backing up the mind-body connection and how we can really improve connection and help our spirits and really change the way that we're looking at the fertility journey. Nicole, you want to say hello?
Yes, hi everybody. I am so honored to be here. As Tracy mentioned, yoga is about a 5,000-year-old science. So she's been around for a while, and I like to say that's probably for a reason. And it's just magical to start to see these practices being brought to the mainstream, because they're so helpful, especially when we're going through challenging times. They can be really transformative. So I feel so honored to be here, and just beyond proud of Kindbody for bringing these services to this experience that I know firsthand is quite a big one in the lives of us women going through it. So just an honor to be here, and can't wait to answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Craig, you want to go to the next slide? Get started. So for anybody who does not know us yet, and welcome anybody if you've been to previous events. We have Jamie in our chat. She is a serious love of mine here at Kindbody, and always is willing to help and answer any questions. So again, if there's anything that you have throughout the conversation, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And if you don't feel comfortable asking them publicly, please feel free to message me directly. You're able to do that through the chat feature. But I want to assure you, number one, we want this to be a very safe space and a comfortable space. But know that if you have a question on your mind, I can bet you about 2 to 3 people have that same question. But just know that however you want to contact us, feel free, and we'll do our best to answer as we go along. And if there's anything that we don't answer during this conversation, please email Navigator at Kindbody, and we'll always do our best to make sure that we give you the information that you're looking for. First and foremost, truly, is we're on a mission here at Kindbody to make reproductive health both accessible and inclusive for everyone. And that is something that is truly in the hearts and minds of every provider, every sonographer to front desk to MA, is that we really do our best to make sure that we meet patients wherever and whenever they need us most, and make sure that everyone is seen and heard, because everyone's journey is unique. And it's important that we honor that. And we feel very lucky to be able to serve in this capacity. Next slide. Something, and I'm sorry if anybody who's seen me at more than one event probably hears me say this all the time, but the path to parenthood isn't always straightforward. I often say sometimes it feels like a really mean game of chutes and ladders or Candyland, where you're stuck in the molasses swamp. And know that no two journeys are alike, but our goal here is to make sure that we can support you and give you the care and services that you need, in the best care, truly the best in class care. And to that, I would really like to introduce and give a warm welcome to Dr. Kristen Kane, who is going to be our hostess with the mostest for this evening, and talk about fertility and what you should do and what you should really look for as you start your journey with us at Kindbody. Next slide.
Thank you, Tracy. So I'm Kristen Kane. I'm a reproductive endocrinologist, which is a fertility doctor, an OBGYN who's done additional training and board certification in fertility treatments, women's hormones, anything that has to do with reproduction. And I've worked in a lot of different places: New York, California, Virginia, Maryland, Fargo, North Dakota, and North Carolina. Now I'm at Kindbody in Atlanta, and we'll soon be opening a Kindbody in North Carolina, in Charlotte, which we're very excited about. And Tracy's right. The way that I came to Kindbody is I wasn't really happy in my previous life and job, and I kind of wrote a little book called What I Want in a New Practice, and I made a list and chapters and all that, and then I ran across the Kindbody website, and I was like, oh, this is everything that was in my book, but I wouldn't have to build it. It's already there. So I sent a letter in, an email with my CV, and I said, you need to open an office in Charlotte. This is a great place. It'll fit well with your company. We need you here, and you need me to be your doctor. And an hour later, I had an interview, and a week later, I had an offer, and here we are. So it's, things can work out really well if you have an idea what you want in your life. And to that end, we titled this Talk Fertility 101, because this is all about you designing what you want in your life. Do you want children in your life? And when do you want them? And how far apart do you want them spaced? And when do you want to be done having children and now be raising them? And who do you want to have them with? And those are really important decisions, and really the kinds of things that no one ever tells you to ask of yourself, other than just that first question, do you want children? And the reason this matters is we're taught our entire life how not to get pregnant. If you did get sex ed in high school, and not everyone does nowadays, you're basically taught how not to get pregnant, how to avoid pregnancy, how to use birth control, we hope. But when you're ready to get pregnant, when you're ready to have a baby, you don't know where to begin. Does it just magically happen and you conceive? It does for some people, but not for everybody, not for a lot of people. And we want to help people have a little bit more sense of when it's right for them to have a child, to know that what they need to do, and to maybe be able to plan for that a little bit the way you would plan for anything else that's important to you, like saving for a house or planning your retirement, anything like that. This is just as important a decision in your life, and you need to have the tools to make that decision go the way you want it to go. Next slide, please. So to that end, I want to give you a little bit of basic biology about eggs. There are multiple things that affect your fertility, multiple things that we need to know about, or you need to know about when you're thinking about getting pregnant. So you need to have eggs, you need to have sperm, you need to have a healthy uterus with tubes, you need to have good timing and good physical health. And those are the things, and I give people this list when you come in to talk to me in the office. I give people this list, and we go through them, and we want to assess these things. So let's start with the eggs. You're born with all the eggs you're ever going to have. It's about 1 million eggs. And by the time we reach puberty, we're down to about 400,000 eggs. And at that point, you lose about 1,000 eggs a month. So if you think of all the eggs in your body as like a gigantic football team with thousands of players, most of the players never get off the bench. Most of them are kicked off the team without even getting a chance to play. But every month, an average woman will have a team of players or eggs that will get out on the field, get a chance to play. That's called your cohort. And we can tell that they're there because these are eggs that have grown big enough to form a little fluid-filled sac around them called a follicle. And we can actually see this on an ultrasound. So if you were to come in and get an ultrasound, I could count the follicles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And an average woman will have a count somewhere between 12 and 24 follicles in any given time. And we can tell by looking at the number of follicles, we can get a sense of how big your team is. The bigger your team, the better chance there is of a really good player just, making that goal, making the baby. But if if nothing fertilizes, if the egg doesn't fertilize, then all those players get kicked off the team and you get a new group out to play next month. So I hope I didn't mix my metaphors too much, but we think at Kindbody that you should be able to get this information without having to find out if you're having infertility first. You should be able to get this information whenever you want and learn what to do with it, because you wonder, where are you at this point? Where are you in the point of this process? Is it just age related, or do some people lose their eggs faster? And the question to both of those is, yes, it is age related, and some people do lose their eggs faster. Next slide. So the quantity of the eggs is something that we can give you an idea of. And another test we can do when you come in for a fertility assessment is a blood test called Anti-Mullerian Hormone. And I'm going to talk about that a little more in the next slide or two, but Anti-Mullerian Hormone kind of gives us a sense of how deep is your bench. So if we do the ultrasound and we can count the follicles, that's what we have to work with now. But the Anti-Mullerian Hormone gives us an idea, do you have a lot to work with most of the time? Or are you especially good this month? Or do you, is this month, are things kind of quiet because you're on the birth control pill, but you actually do have plenty going on? So we look at those two numbers together, the follicle count and the Anti-Mullerian Hormone, and we can get an idea of quantity. The other thing with eggs that happens over time is the quality of the eggs declines over time as well. So a 20-year-old egg is going to be healthier and more likely to result in a pregnancy than a 40-year-old egg. And poor egg quality can result in increased risk of miscarriage or a chromosome problem, and it's impacted by age. Sorry, I'm saying eggs too much. It's impacted by age. So the thing with the quality is there isn't a good test we can do for that. Not a simple one. We get an idea when we do in vitro, where we actually look at the eggs and we can see that they're fertilized and watch them grow into embryos and even test the chromosomes of the embryos. We can do that, and then we can get really good egg quality. But for most people, it's proof is in the pudding. If the egg got you a baby, it was a good egg. And if it didn't, it wasn't. And that's a little harder to get a handle on. One of the things that I can tell you about egg quality is, and a lot of people don't know this, is that eggs have 2 sets of chromosomes. So they have 46 chromosomes in an egg, and sperm have 23 chromosomes, just 1 set. So when the sperm fertilizes the egg has to get rid of one of their sets of chromosomes. And it does that by separating them out and then getting rid of an extra set into this little structure called a polar body, which looks like a little bump on the egg. And as eggs get older, that separation of the chromosomes doesn't happen as normally. And that's why you get a chromosome left behind or an extra chromosome kicked out, and you get an abnormal number of chromosomes. And that results in not getting pregnant or getting pregnant and having a miscarriage, or even other things like Down syndrome. Next slide, please. But there's no magic formula. We really just need to assess you to find out where you personally stand. And to do that, we do what's called a fertility assessment at Kindbody. So the fertility assessment is a visit that we do at Kindbody that includes the ultrasound. It includes that anti-Mullerian hormone. And because you're different from everyone else, you have different goals, you have different needs, different medical history, different everything. We need to know about that. Next, please. So the fertility assessment is a one-on-one consult, virtual or in clinic. And then if you do a virtual assessment, then the second part would be come to the clinic and get the ultrasound and blood test. We do the ultrasound, the anti-Mullerian hormone. And because we're talking to you about your fertility, we get other information too. So the ultrasound can look at your uterus. We can see, is the uterus a healthy size and shape? Do you have problems with the uterus like fibroids? We can look at the ovaries and see, do you have cysts on your ovaries? Do you have, are you ripening an egg like you ought to be ripening up? Do you have any evidence of a medical problem called endometriosis? Do we see anything else going on in the pelvis? So we can assess for lots of things with those 2 tests. And then after we've talked to you, we can also decide if you need other more complicated tests, like tests of the fallopian tubes or genetic testing or any other types of tests that need to be done. And another side of fertility assessment, because it takes 2 to tango, is a semen analysis. And the semen analysis is a simple test. A man collects a sperm sample into a specimen cup, and then he's done. And we take that cup and we look at the sample under a microscope, and we actually count the sperm. We measure, the volume of the semen. We count the sperm number. We see how many of them are moving. We see if they're normally shaped. And if there's any problems with that, then we can take you further down that road too and recommend further consultation or testing for that to figure out what's going on. Next, please. Once you decide you're ready to get pregnant, if it's not happening easily, if it's not happening quickly, you have a lot of family building options. So Kindbody does all fertility treatments, including what's called ovulation induction, which is fertility pills, adding insemination, which is putting sperm up inside the uterus with a little plastic tube on the day you're ovulating. We can use donor sperm if we need to. We can freeze eggs or freeze sperm for you if you're not ready to have a child yet, but you think you might want to in the future, or if you're going to be undergoing treatments that might make it hard to collect eggs or sperm down the road. For instance, say somebody has cancer and they're going to be getting chemotherapy. We can freeze eggs for that person before they get chemotherapy so that after they're cured of their cancer, they can go on to have children, because chemotherapy can damage eggs and it can damage sperm. Or say somebody is transgender and wants to have a child that's genetically related to them, but is going to be taking hormones and medications that make it difficult, especially to get sperm. We can freeze sperm or eggs for that option. And there also is something called third-party reproduction. So that's egg donors for people who need that, or sperm donors, or gestational carriers, which most people think of as surrogates. We do all of that at Kindbody, and some of these are really big, high-tech things, and some of these are little simple things. And sometimes we just find out your thyroid's underactive and you need to take this thyroid pill, and that's what does the trick. But the bottom line is you have options. You have options for treatment. You have options to get your questions answered, and we will go through all the available options with you and weigh the risks, benefits, pros and cons with you to help you figure out what's right for you. Next, please. One of the things I'd like to wrap up with you is egg versus embryo freezing. So this is a great process for if you're ready, if you have good eggs now, things look good, you're ready to go, but you're not ready to have a baby for 2 or 3 years. Or maybe you don't have a partner and you want to wait until you're married to have a baby, but you don't know when that's going to be. You can't just will the right person to come into your life. So that's where we talk about egg freezing and embryo freezing. So egg freezing is where we freeze the eggs unfertilized. And later on, those eggs can be thawed and fertilized with sperm, either from your partner or a sperm donor. And then the fertilized egg becomes an embryo and we can transfer it into your uterus. Embryo freezing is where we fertilize the eggs before we freeze them. There's pros and cons to both of these. The egg freezing gives you flexibility with your life. If you aren't partnered or aren't sure whether you're going to use donor sperm or not, it allows you to freeze your eggs now so that they're there and you can use them later on. Some people also feel more comfortable having eggs frozen than embryos frozen. And so that's an option for people who feel that way as well. An advantage of freezing embryos is it's only when the egg is fertilized can you test for chromosome and genetic problems. The genes have to combine before we can actually test to find out which ones are normal and which ones are not. So that is the big advantage of embryo freezing. The pregnancy rates are the same. And another thing that's great about a fertility assessment is it gives us a chance to start working on things that affect your fertility. So what things affect your fertility? Your whole body is important. Your lifestyle is important. You need to be getting enough sleep and not smoking and drinking not too much alcohol. Your family history makes a difference. Mental health is important. And that's where we want to go with this talk today. Because with Kindbody, we offer help with all of this. And so moving on, I'd like to introduce you to our panel. So Tracy, you want to take it away?
Sure. We can go to our next slide. And really that is how Kindbody 360 is born. And Kindbody 360 isn't anything separate from Kindbody. It is truly our approach to care and a whole body approach and looking at everyone. And something I said earlier was really meeting patients where they are and finding, what they are going to need to feel most comfortable and how our physicians can work in tandem with you to really find the space to give you that support. And as someone, I personally went through a very long, arduous infertility journey, and I felt a lot of times I was in a vacuum, counting on Dr. Google and a lot of things, you know, at 2 a.m, Googling anything that I could possibly do. Should I stand on my head or do things upside down, put crystals in my pockets? Like, I think anybody that's had the trials and tribulations of this, and you really are just trying to do the best. And I think in the family building journey, and especially when you need to seek a clinic's help and a center's help, you feel very out of control. And there's a lot of details out of your control, and what are things that you can proactively do to put yourself in the driver's seat. And I think what's beautiful about Kindbody is our physicians, when you have an assessment, they're not talking at you with white coats with all their diplomas and a big desk. It's a very intimate, in our exam rooms, it's a very intimate table that we're having family building conversations. And that's really how we approach everyone, that all of our providers who you're going to meet a few of today. And for 360, there is so much more than what we're going to offer you and talk about today, but just know, please come to our website and take a look. And again, if you have any questions of other services or other things that you can do, email the navigator email and just let them know, hey, I'd like to learn more about holistic health. What is Kindbody 360? And they will reach out to us, and we're more than happy to have a free consultation on the phone and have a conversation and let you know about other things and other options that are open to you. Truly, the team and I we feel like we're screaming from the rooftops, like, hey, we're here. We really want to do this wonderful work. And the things we're going to talk about today, which I think are very important, are mental health, nutrition, and that mind-body connection. And that's who I'm going to introduce you today. We're going to start, go ahead, Craig, to the slide. So something that was very disjointed in my own journey, and I think for a lot of people, that we've really made sure to make sure that it's integrated in way we care for patients, and that's the mental piece. Oftentimes when someone goes through the journey, you kind of feel like you have to be a tough soul and march through to the end and get things done and do these pieces, and you really neglect yourself and your well-being. And the sad truth of it is, I mean, look at the stats right here. 90% of women that go through the infertility journey have feelings of depression. That's what's normal. It's like how you're feeling and all of the emotions, that is normal. And I think oftentimes we bury it in the sake of moving forward to continue treatment. But I think that we're really that at Kindbody, where we make sure that it's integrated in your journey. Your physicians are very keen to make sure that we give you that support, and really make sure that we have therapists that we have vetted. They are all ASRM trained and specific training in this field to make that we're able to give the care that deserve. And really know this is a unique situation, something that potentially traditional experience in. We want to make sure that you're in good hands with the best of the best, and make sure that you have support that you need. Can we go to the next slide, Craig? Something that I thought would be nice to share is, what are some basic mechanisms? Really talk to us, find resources, and not only just our therapists. On this, I really encourage you to go to resolve.org. They are a nonprofit organization, and they have free supports and information that are free. But I think what they important is just to really, one, make sure that you're having the conversation. Sometimes fertility is so taboo, and to talk about it, I promise you, if you start having those conversations, you will connect with the community and find people that are dealing with something very similar to you. It's 1 in 6 people go through, 1 in 6 couples face. That's a very, very small number. And if we think about it, all of our friends in the LGBTQ plus population, 100% of the time, they need our help. So we need to have these conversations. And I think it's our job, Dr. Kane's job, Nicole and Krista, and what we do every day is make sure that we're vocalizing and verbalizing and be able to connect, that nobody should ever have to feel alone in the journey. That's something I thought is so important. Social media could either be your best for inspiration or poke you in an eye when you see someone with 6 kids. And it really depends on the day. It just depends. Some days you might be great, but then you get in your inbox an invite to someone's birthday party, a child's birthday party, or a oh my gosh, a baby. I can't even think of the right word. What's that?
Baby shower.
There you go. I was all a nursery celebration. Where was that? Okay. But really is that certain things, there are things that might trigger you, but just know that you're supported. Find sites like resolve.org and really lean on us. We have a wonderful community that's there to support you in your journey. Next slide. This is just, again, something additional that we were talking about is how do you support your well-being? Really is number one, it is normal to not feel normal and to feel frustrated and upset. Sadly, there are things that we cannot control, that there are things that we truly have to really trust in the process and trust in your physicians and know that you have that open communication and that you're able to really be supported through your journey, but know that we're able to be able to support that. Again, staying connected with friends and family, but the healthy ones. You don't need mean Aunt Patty or someone who's not supportive of you. Those are the noises you need to drown out and surround yourself with people that are positive and are able to really be there for you and support you. Again, we're always trying to find, I think in COVID, we all tried to find what was our COVID glow up and find our cool things. I was bothering Krista a lot for recipes and cool things that I could do in our kitchen. So whatever that is, find something that really makes you happy. And even if it's in a moment, it's a bad TV show or what it is that you want to do, find those things for you. I put this here, spend time in nature. Like being outdoors. Even Craig, who works with me here in Holistic Health and is driving this wonderful deck, when we're working a long day, sometimes we'll just say, let's just go outside and walk around the block. And how do you change your scenario, change your situation? Feel free to get yours and find some good things, some sunshine in wherever you are. And most importantly is remember connected. You're not alone in this journey. There are people, again, please message us, reach out to resolve.org and take a look at the resources that are very positive and able to give you support regardless of where you are in your journey. Next slide. Something that I just mentioned a moment ago, also what our mental health team is really able to offer you is if you're going through third party. And third party is really what Dr. Kane touched on a little bit before. Anytime you're utilizing donated gametes, and that's an egg donor, sperm donor, or utilizing a gestational carrier or a surrogate, we have you see one of our therapists. And it's really just to talk through this, that regardless of the scenario, if you're unable to utilize your own eggs, or if you're part of the LGBTQ plus population that needs to utilize eggs for a sperm donor, we really want to make sure that you're supported, because there are a lot of conversations, a lot of things that are in your path that are different than other people's journey. And that's part of why we ensure that all of our therapists have been trained and give you the support that you, regardless. And when you say anonymous donor, Dr. Kane knows now too, is that truly we know 23andMe and Ancestry.com. So I think that the conversation really is that there is no such thing as an anonymous donor. And what conversations are you wanting to have? Is there anything on this or anything I've mentioned thus far, Dr. Kane, about mental health you'd like to chime in on?
These third-party counseling sessions, a lot of people are kind of resistant to them because they'll say, well, we've already discussed this with each other. We don't really need a therapist. And we know, are you just judging us and trying to decide if we're fit to be parents? And that's absolutely not what this is about. This isn't just about making decisions for yourself. We honor that you've already made the decision to do this. And certainly nobody's here to judge anybody. We are here to help you get what you want and to have the family of your dreams. But that said, that when your kids get old enough to start asking questions, that's where these therapy sessions can really arm you with good information and helpful tips and helpful things to look out for, because children do often wonder where they come from, or if you have more than one child, one of them's always going to tell the other one, oh, you were adopted. They just, the little kids do that to each other. And what you want is you want to be able to control the narrative of how your children find out about their origins. You don't want them coming up with other thoughts or explanations for things that they've noticed that are not correct and not as wonderful and nice as you deciding you wanted this baby more than anything in the world, and you decided the best way to do that was to participate in third-party reproduction.
Well, and I think Craig can also, we talk about this all the time. Any person that's ever had, or patient that has been apprehensive about this appointment, 100% of the time, they have always come back and said, I am so glad we had this appointment. I am so glad that we had this conversation. And as part of my journey, I adopted embryos, and these were things I didn't think about. I was really, gung-ho to get going and move forward. And I am so happy that I had this opportunity to be able to discuss and have real conversations you don't even consider, because you get, again, focused on the end goal that you're neglecting kind of that mind-body connection and knowing that there's things that you need to discuss.
I've never heard anyone say they regretted going to the appointment.
No, that's true. Well, and next I really I'm excited I introduced Krista at the beginning of this conversation. Krista is an amazing nutritionist that is so dedicated to helping our patients, and the things that she teaches me every day about really with diet of things that you're able to do to help with PCOS. Krista spoke on a call, and I learned so much, and endometriosis, and really I've received some private questions. So I know we're going to touch on fertility foods and things you should eat, but I want to just kind of for you to address when we get there, what are things, if someone's getting ready to do an egg freezing cycle, they want to know, do they avoid sushi? Should they not drink alcohol? So I want you to welcome everyone. Please welcome Krista. And it's so wonderful to have you and have you a part of our team.
Thank you so much, Tracy. You're so sweet. I love this introduction. Yes, it's so important. And how you mentioned, and Dr. Kane mentioned, wellness is a really big part of it. And I'm so glad that Kindbody is really enriching their approach and their treatment plan with all these wellness aspects, because nutrition is just in general for your health is crazy important, but specifically when it comes to fertility health, it can really impact it positively or negatively depending on where you are at. So a few things that I like to explain and the reasons why I think it's crazy important is that because one, we often think that we lack motivation to make dietary or lifestyle changes, and I think this is a great motivation, expanding a family and wanting to have children. What other motivation one could need? And also the control that Tracy mentioned. There are so many things out of our control in general and in our lives. And this is, nutrition is one thing that you can control. Your diet is one thing that you can control. You can make a decision literally right now to drink an extra glass of water, get up and get it and drink it. And that is how it looks like. It's not rocket science. It's step by step, one step at a time, making small changes for huge improvements throughout your life, because it's also not a quick fix. And I also like everyone to think about it, that you are preparing your body to nurture, but to be able to nurture, you have to nourish your body. So I'd like to always say that you need to nourish to nurture. And we have to respect our bodies and support our bodies to let them function properly in order to create a baby and a new life. So a few things that are technicalities why it's also important is that because some people might have digestive issues, gut health issues. Those impact our immune system, hormone system, and it can impact our fertility. You might have nutritional deficiencies, which needs to be corrected before you get pregnant or before conception, or even before ovulation, because otherwise those steps don't happen, or they happen, but they don't happen optimally, and then it won't end up in pregnancy. And then also filling up your nutrition stores, because once you're pregnant, then it comes the first trimester, and then you're sick as hell, and then you're throwing up all the time, and you can't eat anything, and you want to make sure that your body have these storages to reach for nutrients in order to function and then grow that baby in the first part of the pregnancy. So these are the main reasons I think nutrition would be important in a nutshell, because obviously I could talk about this for weeks. The next slide, please. I'll talk about some ingredients right now. And let's go. So my golden rules are usually one of these two. Focus on protein, healthy fats, and fiber. Every single cell in our body is made out of protein. We also need protein to break down the cells in our bodies. We need protein to create hormones. We need healthy fats to produce hormones in our bodies. And then we need fiber, for example, to get rid of excess hormones in our bodies. So these macronutrients are super important for every single step of our hormone production and obviously our cells function. And an egg is a cell, so you want to make sure that you have the brick and the mortar to build these cells, and then to make sure that the quality of these these cells are optimal and boost the quality, because as Dr. Kane said, that the quality can reduce with time. So we want to make sure that we help it as much as we can, that the quality doesn't drop too much. So when it comes to good quality protein, we are talking about seafood, fatty fish, for example, cold water fish like salmon, sardines. These are also good fats and also work as protein. So, and then also plant proteins. Any kind of legumes, beans, chickpeas are extremely important and have so many good minerals and vitamins in them. And then, for example, they serve as fiber. So all of them are connected, but we want to make sure that we have all of these in our diet. And when you build a plate, you want to make sure that you have a good quantity of protein, you have some healthy fat, you have some fiber in a form of dark leafy greens, for example, or a crunchy vegetable like cucumbers and bell peppers. They serve as vitamin C also. So these are, again, I could talk about this for weeks, extremely important. When it comes to healthy fats, though, my golden rule is how Nicole mentioned that the yoga is thousands of years old practice. With healthy fats, I like to say, whatever has been used for thousands of years and we are still using it today, that's been proven to be healthy for us. And then whatever is not, then just kind of get rid of those. So these old fats and oils are olive oil, coconut oil, ghee, and animal fats. So these would be my recommendations to use and focus on. Everything else, all the seeds oils that you see in the grocery store in a see-through bottle that's yellow in color, that's probably already rancid by the time you take it home. So try not to use those oils. And then when it comes to carbs and fibers, as I mentioned, dark leafy greens. If you are not that person who likes to eat a salad, then you can incorporate these into soups and stews or curries. Like you can just throw a handful of spinach into your soup. It wouldn't change the flavor, but it would add necessary iron and other minerals and vitamins to your food. And hydration, as I mentioned, yes, drink adequate amount of water. For example, starting your day with a glass of water with a little bit of lemon juice would be an amazing addition to your digestive health. It also helps with eliminations of toxins and getting your bowel movements regular. So these are the small steps that we can already incorporate in our lives, and then it would make a big change down the line. Next slide. And then, so these are the examples for the previously mentioned macronutrients and micronutrients. So when it comes to health, quality is important. So as much as you can it's worthwhile to focus on good quality ingredients and sustainably sourced ingredient. Going to farmers market, supporting local farmers, having a CSA box, maybe order imperfect produce, for example, because this is not a beauty competition, but rather we are focusing on the nutrient density. These would be great additions to, besides going to the grocery store, to get those quality ingredients to work with. Organic berries, for example, would bring a lot of antioxidants into your diet. And then again, when we talk about egg quality, antioxidants are extremely important. For example, when you ask what would you want to, how would you want to prepare for an egg freezing cycle or an IVF cycle, you want to make sure that your egg that is going to be fertilized is healthy. And egg takes about 3 months to mature. And then so it's worthwhile to start your nutrition journey ahead of time to make sure that you catch up with all of these things, and that you have enough antioxidants introduced into your diet to ensure the quality of the egg. You want to make sure that the mitochondria, the energy machine inside the eggs, is working properly, and that can be facilitated with antioxidant rich and anti-inflammatory rich diets. Like if you add wild sustainable cod fish, it has a lot of omega-3s, that's anti-inflammatory. If you add a lot of berries, that's antioxidant. If you add avocados, that's high in fiber and other good oils. It will help with hormone balance. So these ingredients that we are mentioning here are all very important for fertility health and boosting your egg quality. So I would definitely recommend to think about these and maybe take a screenshot of this when you prepare for a fertility treatment. And specifically talking to a nutritionist, I think it would be essential, because as Tracy mentioned and everyone knows, your case is unique and special, and I'm here to build a custom plan specifically for you, because we want to make sure that everything that we are doing is facilitating your health and your fertility journey, and it's not generalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. I know you were, and I always make Krista, I'm like, I need you to cram a lot of information in a short time. So I'm sure you do need a drink of water having to say all of that.
Yes.
Something amazing that Krista recently did is a wonderful recipe, a soup recipe on our blog. So please feel free to go to our blog and take a look at that. And then, so we do have a few questions about nutrition, but I want to be able, I know we're running short on time, and I promise you to get through all of this. As far as nutrition, if you have a kind body benefit, it is covered by insurance. If you have major medical, you're able to utilize your HSA and FSA, and you're able to put anything that you spend on a session towards that. You're able to submit it that way. And then question for you, Kristen, I'll keep going through these and then we'll go to talk to Nicole. Is there any issue when someone is vegan? Like how?
Yeah, I was just gonna type the answer.
Okay.
No, but this is when you need guidance, because you want to make sure that because of the restrictions in your diet, you want to make sure that your nutrient levels are adequate. And for that, I think it's very important to work with someone who can guide you specifically on how to eat, to make sure that you meet these requirements. Because just as an example, vitamin D, right? It's not easy to get in our diet. You have to eat certain types of foods, and then of course you have to go out in the sun, or B12, for example, or iron. And those have certain requirements for conception and pregnancy. And I think with guidance, you can definitely reach those.
Amazing. And Krista, I'll let you look through the chat. There are definitely a bunch of questions, more than I can back. I know you're good at doing that. Next slide, Craig, please. Right there. Thank you. So this is something that's really exciting. I am so happy. Dr. Kane, when we spoke about this yesterday, you're like, I know nothing about this and I can't wait to ask all the questions. So I see you beaming here. I am so excited to talk about this. And somatic therapy is really movement therapy and how you connect mind and body and really utilizing it as a way to decompress, de-stress. And I want to introduce Nicole Katz, who can barely, who can better, not barely, who can barely, oh my goodness, better speak to this and talk about the magic that she provides and a little bit about her journey to having her baby. And I think that it's really important that she's part of this conversation and part of our Kind Body team. Nicole?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that, Tracy. Yeah, so just a little bit, when we started to, on our family expansion journey, however many years ago, I had already been a yoga practitioner for almost 2 decades at that time. And I'd been a yoga therapist for a very long time as well. But I remember there was a point in that journey when, as anybody knows who has had trouble in their journey, there comes this point where your mind takes over and stress becomes a big factor. And it was, I was so grateful to have my yoga practice at that point to deal with this stress aspect of it. When we say stress, when we say, don't be stressed, and then it's a very challenging thing for a woman to not feel stressed as part of what is supposed to be not stressful, but this is then very stressful, and trying to find our way through that can be really challenging. And I am just so grateful for the work, for the yoga practice that I had that now turns into the work that I get to do with my clients, which is to say, how do we take what is inherently a stressful situation, physically, mentally, emotionally, and create what is a whole life practice. That it's funny, you had that slide, Tracy, about do these things. And I was laughing to myself because a lot of that is kind of what we would go through in a session together. We would talk about you not only as someone who is dealing with a physical aspect and what are physical practices that we can do to support you, to support your body. We all know how good exercise is for us. And I think we've all experienced that there's this thing that happens when we move our body to our minds. And when our minds are under a certain amount of discomfort, pain, stress, if we can tie those two things together and get really prescriptive about what we're doing with our physical body, we can help the mind, and then the mind can help the body, and then we can actually reduce stress. And so there's a lot of beautiful things we can do together when we look at women, which is one of the reasons I love Kind Body so much, is that we're looking at you not only as the body that is having a thing, but as a whole life, and at all the different angles. And we're working really prescriptively together. Yes, to get you a physical asana practice to support you in what you're going through, but also to say, there is the rest of your life, and how is that serving the experience that you are having right now, and how can we make it better? That might be a long-winded discussion or long-winded answer. Lay it on me, Dr. Kane.
No, please, and please, I really would love for you to talk about your appointment.
Yeah. So when I have a session with a client, and I should say, I always say this about the experience of becoming a mother, is that motherhood itself is a marathon, and training for that even now and thinking of it in the long haul is a really beautiful thing. And so when I work with women, we spend about half of the session talking. How was last week? What's going on? What's working? What's not working? Do you feel heard? Do you feel seen? Where's your spiritual practice? All these things. And then from that, we create a 30-minute and again, it's always prescriptive, right? So I was about to say invigorating, but it would depend on the woman that I'm dealing with. But it's a 30-minute practice that then is recorded, that then you have this custom practice that is tailored to where you are in this moment. You know, the yoga practice for thousands of years was a one-on-one science. It is very new in the world of yoga that there is one thing for the masses. So I'm so thrilled to get to bring this concept, and it's the way that I've worked for a very, very long time, but to get to do this on this kind of scale, that it really does get to be what it's meant to be, which is prescriptive. And so you get a lot of support on a lot of different levels with a session when we work this way.
Thank you, Nicole. Dr. Kane, please ask away.
So you get a patient in front of you, and you do this, by Zoom most of the time.
Yes.
So let's say, I'll pretend to be your patient.
Yes.
Not for a long thing, but I don't want to bore people, but
what do you mean? This is so exciting.
I say I'm trying to get pregnant. And what kinds of things do you ask me?
Yeah. We talk about your journey so far. I have, we talk a lot. I asked you to tell me your story. Tell me your story from start to finish. This is another one of those things that when we are going through this, we're often not talking about it. We're often holding it in. We're often maybe sharing it with our partners, but it's also they're going through their aspect of this while we're going through our own aspect of it. So just allowing a woman to feel heard, and things kind of naturally arise as to what would serve her best in some of these areas.
And so she tells you her story, and you pick up on pieces like, I've got pelvic pain, or I was told I have endometriosis, or I have PCOS and I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight, so I can do my cycle more healthily, and I don't know where to start with all of that. Is that, and then you just what kinds of movements?
And then exactly. And then we tailor a physical practice based on what she is working on, not only in her physical body, but also in her mental body. But yes, to the physical body. And it also is very common for me to ask if I can be in touch with a care provider. I talk to a physical therapist all the time. I am back and forth with doctors and finding out what would best support the client. What should we be doing? What shouldn't we be doing? Because that's also another part of this, that it can be very nerve-wracking. We want to move our bodies, but also how to, and I'm scared. And especially if you've experienced a loss before, getting back into our bodies can be really challenging. So feeling really supported and really safe physically is another thing that I feel grateful to help to provide.
And then do you give people like a mantra or like or help them set intentions for their practice?
What a beautiful question. Yes, so definitely part of the way that I work in this whole life approach is that there is a physical aspect, but then we all have these stories running over and over and over in our mind. And a big part of yoga practice is the use of mantra to help to focus our mind where we want it to be, not where we don't want it to be. So at the end of the session, you do have a mantra, and you very often have some sort of journaling homework, again, as part of addressing us in a multi-dimensional way. So yes, at the end, you'll have journal prompts, you'll have a mantra, and you'll have this practice, this physical practice. And we'll do breath work together. You'll also have that you'll be working on, because again, it's all one. And the breath is a beautiful way to get into the body and to get out of the mind, and to use them to kind of
that is just so interesting. And do you mind if I ask Krista a question too? Yeah. I have a question for you, Krista. So you see people for their, sorry, I've got sirens and there they went. So you see people as well, and you talk to them about their problems and say, do you have specific dietary recommendations for things like PCOS or endometriosis, or do you mostly focus on just improving nutrition and maybe weight loss for people who need that?
Yes, so that's why, as I said, it's really custom built, because it is really dependent on the patient and their health history. So if they have any kind of conditions, then we do focus on that too. And it also depends on the condition, if that's going to be a priority or not. So for example, in PCOS, we do have to prioritize it, because otherwise the ovulation might be impaired. So, or endometriosis. So, but if you have thyroid problems, for example, that we already controlled, then I kind of touch it. And then of course we support the thyroid with nutrition, but it's not the main focus. But then it would be more like just an overall nutrient boost if something is already being under control. But PCOS and endometriosis, and then there are so many studies on this, how certain nutrients can help manage and maintain these conditions. So absolutely, and I love working with and backing everything back by science. So that's a really a part that I enjoy much. So absolutely, PCOS, for example, depending on what's driving that condition, is it blood sugar balance, or is it inflammation, or the combination of both? Then we start to focus on those and reducing inflammation and balancing out the blood sugar, bringing the insulin back to a normal level, things like that. Yeah, the answer is yes.
While you were talking about any opinion on dairy, because I've heard different things. No dairy is best. Full fat dairy is best. Low fat best.
Yeah. So, for example, there are studies that show that, for example, celiac disease and thyroid problems, specifically Hashimoto's, is connected. But even if you are not celiac, which would be a very severe allergic reaction to gluten and wheat, even if you're just sensitive to gluten, meaning that it causes you bloating or you just don't feel well if you eat a lot of gluten, that can help if you leave it out from your diet. Generally, I don't like to restrict. I like to rather add, because I think that nutrition has a huge behavioral and mental component to it. And I think when we add rather than take away, it's easier for us to implement in our daily life. But when it's needed, yes. And when it's backed by science, when it's proven in multiple studies, yeah, then absolutely, I think it's worth to try. And then if it doesn't work, then, we'll get another approach. But highly allergenic foods help a lot with boosting fertility, for leaving those out from your diet, boosting fertility for sure. Dairy and gluten, sometimes eggs also, although eggs are very healthy too. So depends.
That's great. That's great. I would love at some point down in the future to do like one-on-ones with both of you, like maybe do a little movement class or a cook something on,
yes, a workshop.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Really fun to do. What do you say, Tracy?
We would love to do that. And hopefully soon in person. Nicole and I were talking about how badly we would love to be able to practice and do things in person, and hopefully next year. Most importantly, I would like to say to everyone is thank you for taking time and joining us today. And if I were to say my mantra, it would be knowledge is power. And truly, everyone here is, I can't recommend more to at least know where you stand, whether you're trying to get pregnant today or in 6 years, or you're not sure when. I think it's really important to put the power in your hands. And as someone who personally put her head in ostrich sand for way too long, if I were to say anything to myself, that truly would be to make sure that I wish I would have checked sooner. So if I can impart any knowledge, that would really be to know where you stand. I think that you can do incredible things with Nicole and Krista and things in your preparations in the journey, and then really meet one of our amazing physicians like Dr. Kane, and have that conversation. We do have a discount code for $500 off a cycle and $100 off an initial assessment if you don't have insurance. I think Craig's deck unfortunately died, but I'm going to find the code. And so for anyone that is interested in that, the code is October 101. So OCT 101. I'll put that here in the chat for anybody if you're interested. So anybody that has joined today, we would love to offer you $500 off your cycle and $100 off your assessment. Again, I hope we answered. I was looking through to see if I can find everyone's questions. Again, if we did not answer your question, please make sure that you email navigator@kindbody.com. Also, if you have any questions for Nicole or Krista, feel free to email them to Navigator and we'll make sure that they get them. Thursday evening, we're 3:00 Pacific, 6:00 Eastern. We are going to do a support group in honor of miscarriage and infant loss. And we really see that we know that the infertility journey, sadly, there are many losses that can happen within a journey. It's not just a miscarriage. It could be a genetically tested embryo or eggs that did not mature. So please know that if you would like to join us, We are going to have a support group. We will not record that event. This event will be recorded and on our YouTube channel, but we really want to have a safe space for everyone who would be interested in getting support towards healing. We all know that this is can be a very long and arduous journey, but really is know that we're here and to be present for you and support you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, send us a message. Dr. Kane, do you have anything else to include?
No, thank you. This was a lot of fun to do. I always love getting a chance to share good information with people and to meet other people who have good information to share as well. This is the first time I've had a chance to meet Nicole and Krista, our team members, and so excited to have you on board and have you helping me with some of my patients. So thank you.
Asia, the support group will be here at the same link. There is an invite that should have gone out, but you're more than welcome. If you join the same link that was for this event, we'll be here on Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to have our support group. I really want to say thank you, Jamie. You are so wonderful. You are our wonderful mistress of the chat, and you really help us and help patients. And I appreciate all that you do and the work that you do. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I can't wait. Hopefully it's wonderful to meet you in person when we can, but I love that we can connect coast to coast and have these wonderful events. So thank you everyone for joining, and can't wait to see everybody soon. Take care. Bye everyone. Thank you.